Hey, welcome to the men's room, the hangout where dads, husbands, and everyday guys level up. I'm Chad Henderson, twin dad, husband, lifelong learner. Travel with me as I open up the real conversations that push me to become a better dad, husband, and friend. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Men's Room. I am so excited to have a special guest here, Dr. Ronnie Mack. Dr. Mack, welcome to the show.
Oh, how's it going, man? Glad to be with
Good.
you, Chad.
Good, man. It's so good. It's so good to see you. So we go back a little ways. A couple jobs ago for myself, you were a volunteer at an organization that I was working with. You have worked in higher education your entire life, I think,
hmm
mostly very similar to me. So back when we connected, man, 10 years ago, when
hmm
I was down at the Region 6 conference down there, Shro,
Yeah, yeah.
just an exciting opportunity to get to sit down and talk to you, learned a lot about life, just love the way you look at life.
hmm
And we were connecting recently, and I was like, dude, you got to come on and help me impart some of that wisdom that you've got to some of these folks.
All right, awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's always good to get reconnected.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. Well, Dr. Mack, I wrote up a little introduction. I know you are currently an interim director at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Is that like you work with like astronauts there? Like, what do you guys got going on down there? That sounds intimidating.
well, actually, I mean, it is a little bit of that. I actually got to meet my first astronaut at Riddle. The crew that rode on the Polaris Dawn, they came to see one of our labs, so it's kind of cool to meet them. But it's
Yeah.
a little bit of both. In the research park, I work with heavy researchers that are in engineering labs or doing things that I can't necessarily pronounce. And then I'm also working with startup companies that are creating business opportunities and creating economic development within our whole area.
Dude, that's so cool. That's really neat. So walk us through it. I mean, is this where you saw, was this your goal from the very beginning? And I know the answer a little bit from the beginning. I
Yeah.
know that's not exactly how you shaped it to be, but tell me how you got to this place. Introduce yourself to these folks.
Yeah, sure. I'm Ronnie Mack. I've worked in higher ed for about 14 years. I've had some of the most interesting jobs that you wouldn't think connected. I've gone from working in dorms to now working in research facilities. Originally from the Atlanta area, went to school at Georgia Southern, where I got a degree in business, but also a master's in higher ed, which really started that journey. And then been living in Daytona Beach area for about 14 years now. To answer your original question, that's why one thing I always like to impart on students and families is like planning. I've been blessed and lucky that I've kind of bumped into great opportunities, but planning is so key. Like, how do you want your future to look? What do you want your life to look like? And what are the key steps to do that? Because I was not that type of student. I always like to tell folks the story. I had no earthly idea how college worked by any means. And it's funny that I worked for a university.
Yeah, right.
When I stepped on campus freshman year, when they said public university, I didn't know. So this is why planning and mentorship is so key. They said public university, so I figured it was like public high school, like it's free, which we know public high school isn't free. I mean, you got tax dollars, things like
Right.
that.
Absolutely.
But I thought it was free. And then remembering the sobering conversation around financial aid really changed my life and was like, I need to kind of plan and be more strategic. And that's kind of what introduced me to my higher ed experience.
Amazing. Amazing.
Mhm.
And so what led to that shift then for you in student affairs? I can relate because I started off as a resident director,
Yeah.
living in residence halls, bounced around in a weird way. But I think that's because those resident directors that you get in those early years, they are willing to raise their hand and do anything that the
Yeah.
university needs them to do, right? Like you need somebody to get in an ambulance and take a student to the hospital. Like, sure, man, I'll hop
Mhm.
in. Like, let's go. We're gonna take care of it. So, what shifted there for you?
This is gonna sound bad. When I was in class, I didn't really care about anything I was learning in class. I was happy. What I really enjoyed about college was the community and the people I got to engage with. A lot of it was in that housing role. So being really impressed upon by like some of our RAs at the time and how they was leading us and guiding us and being mentors and some of the RDs. And it was just an interesting kind of race on both sides. I was sitting in classes like I gotta finish school because my mom will kill me if I don't, but not really enjoying it.
Yeah.
but enjoying being an RA, enjoyed being involved in Greek life, enjoyed being a part of like a multi-student culture center and like having conversations, supporting students, connecting resources. And then somebody tapped me on the shoulder, was like, you know, people go to school to do this. I was like, no, they don't.
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't click in my head that like people go to school to learn how to work at a university. It was actually one of our deans at the time. And after hearing him say that, it was just kind of light bulb moment. Like, I guess I can do this.
Yeah. I can
Yeah.
relate.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
I can relate to that a lot. Yeah, I remember having that same conversation. For me, it was a friend, a mentor, friend
mhm,
now, and I remember he sat me aside. He's like, you can teach that's not in the classroom. Like, there are ways you can impact others. You don't. I always thought I had to be a teacher. Like, I knew I
yeah.
wanted to help people learn, and so the way you do that is you teach fourth grade for 30 years. And then somebody pointed out, like, oh, actually, you can engage with people in these other different ways and make a real difference in college students' lives by doing that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. So, but what's always been impressive to me is from afar, right? I'm up in Minnesota. I know you're down in Florida. We live in two very different places in the whole
Very
world, right? For all
different
kinds of
climates.
reasons. But the way I watch you on LinkedIn creating community, it never stops. You post with such consistency, even sometimes when it feels like nobody's engaging. Like you're out there, you're posting, you're being consistent. Watching you engage in the community, I always respect. It feels like you take an active role in like writing your story.
Yeah.
Do you consciously do that? Is there truth to what I'm seeing from up here? I've always admired that about you. What are your thoughts?
I think kind of thinking of my college experience into now, and it's crazy. Like social media is supposed to be about telling our stories. But a lot of times when I post, I don't think about myself. I think about like resources that others may need. Like, oh man, somebody posted this grant. Let me let my network know. Man, this is great opportunity for students. Cause I remember feeling like not the most academically focused student and feel like opportunities were passing me by. And some of that was my fault for not necessarily studying, but like I was telling you, I wasn't super motivated for school.
Me either. Yeah.
So anytime somebody would sit down with me and explain something to me and connect me to a resource that I didn't know, like that was like gold to me. So when I come across things, like I just gotta share it. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
somebody may need it. I always have this analogy. I always would hate in life if I'm have to move somewhere over a weekend. Let's say I'm hustling up and downstairs, I'm lifting couches, I'm doing all kinds of stuff by myself. Just to figure out my friend on Monday be like, hey man, you should have called me. I had a truck and my cousin was free all weekend. Why you ain't say
Right.
nothing?
Yeah.
So, like, to need help and the resources be close and but just not know it, I think is a real frustrating thing for me, but I think a lot of people deal with that. Like, their next blessing or their next opportunity may be around the corner in another person, but they just don't know it's aware. So I try to repost anything I think is valuable. And I think some people may not engage with it, but people are always reading. People are always watching. You just
Yeah.
never know.
I love that so much because what you're telling me is that you're doing it because almost you're afraid if you don't do it, someone might miss an opportunity that they'll
Yeah.
never know about. Like almost like there's pressure behind you making sure you're taking care of your network by sharing what you know. It's really
Yeah,
beautiful.
very true.
That's really beautiful. I like that a lot. I mean, I think about that with my coaching business, right? Because I post a lot of stuff. It's basically, honestly, just lessons I'm learning as I stumble my way through trying to be the best dad I can be or
Mhm.
the best husband I can be. And then I'll learn something in therapy and I'm like, oh shit. If I don't share this, like somebody else is gonna have to learn this painful lesson the way I just did. So I can kind
Mhm.
of relate to that. I like what you're doing there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. How do people respond? Are you able you develop a pretty good network down in Florida? I did see that you recently
Mhm.
got to present at Daytona Beach or the Daytona Regional Chamber of Commerce. You must do a great job of building community.
Yeah, a lot of people will resonate with it, even as I've trying to develop myself and look at greater opportunities or trainings. You'd be surprised who's watching and who's willing to help. So I think my past has been just being a good listener. That might be a lesson for your audience of I've tried to puff myself up at times and it hasn't been helpful. When I have like genuinely listened to people and genuinely tried to help, that's when blessings have come my way. You know what I mean? Where I've sat down with had a chance to what was it? I had a chance to be an MC for something for an organization called Career Source or workforce development piece. And it came from volunteering at a local event. And it was like, hey, Ronnie, you'd be great to help with this. And I think that came from a lot of the student affairs experience. Like all those professionals I knew were always serving. They were always on committees. They was always up late with students. They were always looking at developing and mentoring people. So taking that service into my professional life, that has helped me build a network of helping and listening to people, which in turn has created opportunities for me too.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love it. So tell me about this talk you were able to give to the Chamber of Commerce. I had a chance to watch like the first 10 minutes or so of it, but
Mhm.
you were really talking about this journey of self-discovery.
Mhm.
Hit me with a little bit of what you were able to share with them.
Yeah, so I had a chance. So we have something locally called Daytona Elevate. It's essentially TED Talks, but our local version of it.
That's
And
so
it's
cool.
all local professionals, local community members giving their kind of 5 to 10 minute spills on life lessons. And one for me has been the power of people. Like I haven't been the smartest person. I haven't always been in the best rooms, but connecting with the right people, whether that's through serving or being an advocate for those people, have created opportunities for me. So a little bit, I talked about my college journey. I talked a little bit about one story I'll tell you that really changed my life. Slash, I wouldn't be in higher ed unless this person gave me grace. So one of the stories I talked about was we had a dean at the time. I was working as a grad student in the dean of students office. I was not the best employee by any means. By any means. I think I just pledged my fraternity that year. Like I was hoping to get in a whole nother office, which was kind of the cool office where you can kind of relax and meet students. I got in the dean's office where we're writing up
You got to
judicial
work.
reports. You know what I'm
Yeah, you're
saying? Yeah.
going to work in the dean's
Y'all want to
office.
y'all want to work for real. Oh, can I go back down the hallway?
Right.
But I mean, it's work that was needed. It was like judicial reports, like holding students accountable, but also doing like interventions that led to student growth. So that was when people were doing like really doing restorative justice work instead of just penalizing students, things like that. It was important work. I don't think I took it as important as it should have been because I think I wanted a different opportunity. And I'll never forget this day. If this went left, I wouldn't be working higher ed today. The dean at the time, sat me in her office, and looked at me and was like, "Ronnie, I want to fire you so bad, but something in my spirit will not let me do it." I was like, well, I'm glad you listened to whoever that was. But I wasn't a great leader. Like, I was coming late. I had my friends in the office. Mind you, this is the dean of students office. Like, I got my friends coming in and out. Like, I wasn't changing based on my new environment. And I deserved everything she said. And after that, like, I took her advice. You know what I'm saying? I shaped up, like, had to have some critical conversations with friends. I started to make sure I was focused. If she would have fired me that day, I wouldn't have been able to pay for grad school. I probably had to go back home. I wouldn't be working in higher ed 14 years later. So I talked a little bit about like people who might be supportive, but also people who may be critical and like correct you so you can make better choices. If it was for that dean, I don't know where I'd be working at now.
For sure. Somebody to take the time to stop and care enough about you to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You don't realize when you're young how much that's a gift. I
Yes.
remember, man, my first profession it took me until my first professional job before I had, like, that reality hit me in the face of like, "Dude, why are you're screwing around," like that was the first time I got the feedback where my boss had said, she's like, "Chad, when I'm giving you feedback, I need you to stop shaking your head." I was like, the whole time she was talking, I remember I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I hear you." And I just wanted her to stop. I wanted so badly to stop what she was saying and be like, "Yeah, I know." And I remember she's saying like, "I don't need you to react. I just need you to stop and hear it." And ever since that moment, whenever somebody takes the time to give me the feedback, as much as inside I might want to stop them or react or explain it, I remind myself like, just shut up and listen to this feedback. So you also had to be ready to hear that message. And it sounds like that was a real turning point for you. Luckily for you, maybe 6 years earlier than I got it.
Yeah. I would say two things. I think a big motivator was poverty because if she would have fired me, I would have been screwed. I don't know what I would have done school wise. But this came to mind when you're talking because I know you do a lot of work with men of feedback isn't always bad. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes we may receive feedback in such negative ways that we don't know like what loving feedback looks like. Cause she was right. Like, hey, you're doing this wrong. You're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. But hey, make these corrections. Sometimes feedback is just yelling at you about what you're doing wrong, and there's no hope for you to do better. Versus like, I care about you enough. I want you to excel, fix A, B, C, and D. And I think a lot of men may need to hear that of like, not all feedback is bad. Yes,
Yeah.
make sure that people are giving you feedback respectfully. I think we're used to like football coach feedback where people getting screamed at
Yes.
rather than let me speak to you as a person and give you clear guidance so you can be better.
Yeah, dude, that's real.
Hmm.
That's like some real good. Yeah. Yeah, I try my best to figure out like how do you relay that message to the right people? I think I
Hmm.
talk to a lot of parents. I know that you used to work in student orientation, so I know we can relate to that parent talk, but how do parents how do parents lead their young men and prepare their young men? And this is just me thinking as you and I are talking, so like no pressure here. This is what I spend my time thinking about is like with Chad Henderson coaching is like, how do I help men understand the impact we have on our sons just by the way that we live? Or, how can a mom prepare her son to be able to get that feedback when you
Hmm.
had to come in at just a certain level to be able to hear that? If you weren't ready to hear that, guess what? You could have lost that job. You could
Yeah.
have dealt with even further poverty consequences in that situation, right? But you chose to let that be your moment. I don't know, man. Any thoughts in there? I just said a lot.
I think one thing I think with parents a lot, and I think I have grown like you got kids, I got kids. I've grown deeper respect and care for my parents because of like I have now had to make parent choices and then my parents telling me their story a lot more. I think a lot of times listening to your kid is one, like honest listening. Like before you have like, and I'm a culprit of this. I'm a lecturer. Like when my kid does something, I got like 6 PowerPoints and
Yeah.
like 10 articles I done researched about why you tripping. And
Let
that
me tell you about what happened when I was 6, and
let
that'll
me
help
let me
you
let,
under.
let me reference this CNN article about why you should be doing this. And it's not to be mean. It's just you care about your kids. But I think it's the honest like listening to your kid, like literally hearing them out and then providing feedback. And then when possible, tell your story. Like this is not I know I thought my parents were just out of touch until I started hearing some of their origin stories of like how they grew up. Helped me realize that I take on some of those same tendencies, but also helped me realize that they're people too. Because I know as a parent, I want to be looked at as human as well.
Yes.
So I think some of that with young men, and then honestly, especially for those who might be mom or dads too, putting your kids in challenging situations and letting them grow and figure that stuff out.
That's a hard one.
Yeah, I mean, you done orientation work. This is kind of baffle me all the time. I would be doing check in. Great young man. This dude got to be 6'2", 250, probably checking in for football, and his mom doing all the talking. Where he gonna sleep? What his ID number is? What's his email? I'm like, this man bigger than both of us. Like,
Yeah.
why does he not know this information? Not to pick on him, but like, once you leave, he got to know it. So I think the third part is figuring out, like we know in higher ed, like what does that challenge and support look like? How are you mixing that as a parent? When do you know when to swoop in? But when do you know to like, hey, bro, I need you to at least try. Then I'll swoop in after that. So that might mean, hey, I got a conflict with my roommate. I done tried the RA, the RD, the VP of Student Affairs. I done tried all I can, mom. Okay, cool. Then swoop in after that.
Yeah.
Now,
That's a good point.
roommate took my apple and like I'm on the next train out of New York to come deal with this.
That's a
So
good
like that
point.
mixture of challenge and support.
I like that a lot. I remember when I was 24 and a hall director at Loyola and experiencing some of those things and thinking like, what is wrong with this mom or whatever. And now that I'm 40, right? Like, and
Hmm.
and like I am a parent. I can see like, boy, you can accidentally create a whole life where you just accidentally solve all their problems for them. And kids will let you do it, right? Like
Yeah.
he's not gonna necessarily. You got some that'll be like, I got it, mom. But for the most part, like if you allow yourself, if you don't remember to stop yourself and consciously let your child solve
Hmm.
those problems, you can really easily. always kind of thought it was like that's a whatever you call it, like that's a helicopter parent, or
Yeah.
the name changes every few years. We call it something
Those are
different.
like snowplow one year,
Yeah,
it was
snowplow
helicopter
player,
or something.
but
Yeah.
but the parents are always very well intentioned, right? They're doing it out
Yeah.
of a place of care and compassion. And I think sometimes just that reminder for our parent friends out there that, like, it's actually a really bad idea for you to be solving all these little problems for your kids. Like, even just like my kid comes to me and they're like, "Oh, dad, I need a pencil sharpener." I'm like, "Well, huh?" Like, go look. Like, like, here's how we're going to start. Here's the first 5 places I would look. You go look there
Yeah.
first, and, walk them through how to problem solve and teach them, but don't just every single time go solve the immediate problem. That's a really good point.
Yeah, and I will give parents this defense because I feel like I've heard this in some of my experience too of like cutting the parent off, your kid's an adult, let them figure it all out by themselves. I think that's also incorrect too. I think it's how do you partner with the university and those professionals? So
Yeah.
like I would love for a mom, and let's say I'm working in housing. Oh, he's taking my food. Well, did you call Dr. Mack, the RD, and check with him first? Check with him and then call me back. Like
Yeah.
push your kid back to the system. Now the system
Exactly.
fails, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah. 100%.
But like, how do you push your kid back to the system? How do we work together? I know my K-12 colleagues talk about this all the time. Of like, how do we get parents as partners as we are doing the work that we're doing with your kid?
Yeah. All the way through.
Hmm.
That's a good point.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Ronnie, what's the thing that you would want people to leave remembering? What's the message that you sort of like put out there into the world?
My overall message would be once again, power people. Like, connect with folks around you, build community. You go farther with people together, and some of those elements are serving others. And then being an active listener, all the data is talking about how lonely we are and what struggles we have. But it's crazy because we're around people every day, or we have access to modes like we're doing right now to truly connect with folks. So I think it's a couple parts. I don't know if we're truly connecting. I don't know if we're truly being known by individuals. But you got to put yourself out there to do that. So you might have to create that community. You might have to be an open ear and a listener, and that might create the connection that you're looking for. Because that's the only way you're going to be successful. I think that's what student affairs, and I could guess in your area too, has taught us, man. Like a lot of these folks on campus were leaders. They were always building community, whether that's housing, admissions, student affairs, even the folks doing facilities. It was all about how do we create this community, whether it's a physical structure, whether like that's a building, or it's the individuals living in the building, because that's how we're going to be successful. And I would venture to say the issues we see in the world is because we've allowed that human connection to dissipate. That's probably why we're seeing the high levels of conflict that we're seeing right now.
100%. I think back to, just even in the residence halls, the number
Hmm.
of like roommate conflicts you've got, right? And then somebody comes down, they're talking to the RD, and you're like, "Have you guys talked about it yet?" They're like, "Well, we've sent each other a few text messages." I'm like, "Mm-mm, like, mm-mm." And honestly, if we could do this more in the real world, what I had to say to them was like, "I'm not meeting with you to discuss moving rooms until you guys have had a conversation together first,
Yes.
right? Like, you guys need to go try and have a conversation. If that doesn't work, then I'll help you do a mediated conversation." And
Hmm.
most of the time, it didn't end up having to come down to a room move. It was really just people will desperately try to not have the difficult conversation
Yeah.
in all ways. They would rather call the police and report someone for noise rather than go across the street
Yes.
and be like, "Hey, would you mind turning down your boombox? Like, it's a little late." Like, they would rather just avoid the situation altogether.
Yeah, I want to throw a scenario out there that I feel like guys help me deal with. So I come from a faith background, but most of my life, when resentment comes up, it's because of like unheard expectations, and that's usually on me. Like I haven't explained that expectations. I ain't said them out loud. I ain't emailed to nobody, but in my head, I'm pissed off because somebody,
Yes. Oh,
let's say, ate my apple. But like, did I tell them that apples were off limits? No. So now
right.
I'm like mad. Anytime you breathe, and I'm upset. Well, that's not fair because I didn't communicate, and we've seen it on both sides, like, how many times it's the most simplest thing with students, and especially going back to conduct, man. You'll talk to a student that's, like, problem A, then the second student be like, "Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. I had
No
no
one said
idea.
anything. No
100%.
one no one had a concern. Like, I didn't know this was a problem." So, like, yeah, help people listen, communicate, and then really deal with difficult conversations that may not be difficult. We just haven't had them.
Yeah. Boy, it is incredible. And I think we're getting further from our ability to have those conversations, especially on some pretty critical topics.
Yeah.
I wish in many ways it's kind of a reminder for me, in fact, that like I know all of this, and yet still day in and day out, like I might not choose to address a little thing here, and
Mhm.
then you don't address a little thing there, and now all of a sudden you're not talking to somebody because they've pissed you off 4 times in a row, and you never told them that they even pissed you off once.
These people walking around sunshine and life going great, they can care less because they don't know.
They have no idea. Why would they?
Yeah.
And to be fair, like a lot of times that conflict then can live in my own head, or I'll fill in gaps with, I talk a lot about this with some of my coaching clients is like,
Mhm.
I think I'll fill in a gap and make up a story of like, oh, that person doesn't like me because of this or whatever. And then a couple years later, I'll run into them at the grocery store and they're like, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Like, I think about you all the time. And I was like, shit,
Yeah.
like, for 2 years, I've been telling myself that person hated me, and now, like, I gotta reassess that whole scenario that I made up to fill in a gap in my head.
Mhm.
And instead, if we just take the time to have those little conversations, get to know people. I loved what you said about getting to know people more deeply, taking the time to really like say, I saw you had an announcement on LinkedIn that was like, hey, I'm open to work, right? And I was like, oh
Mhm.
shit, like, how are they gonna lose him? Like, I'm gonna reach out. What's going on with Ronnie? Cause like, but without that, we would miss the opportunity for these connections. So that would be my advice to folks too is like reach out, like take the risk, say hi to somebody you haven't seen in a while. Like some good advice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, man. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
So I appreciate you joining. Folks, thanks for listening. If you don't mind, like and subscribe. If you appreciate this content and want more, I'm sure I can get Dr. Ronnie Mack back anytime we need. But I
Yeah,
really like where this conversation went. And maybe in the future, we can come back and talk a little bit more about your faith journey.
yeah.
I am not I'm not a person of faith. I've worked at some Catholic institutions, but I am very curious about the way in which you're able to kind of negotiate some of the religion pieces with some of
Mhm.
the identity pieces. And I know that you're a social justice advocate. So I'd love to have you back on if you're ever interested in talking more about religion.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Whenever you got
Sweet,
time.
dude. All right. Well, Dr. Ronnie Mack, thank you so much for joining us. We'll keep it short here so people have a chance to listen. And thanks for joining. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for joining us in the men's room. We hope that our conversations leave you feeling empowered, less alone, and ready to show up as a better husband, father, and friend. The men's room is proudly brought to you by Chad Henderson Coaching, your home for honest support, real life coaching, and a community that gets it. If you're looking for more ways to grow, or if you're curious about how personal coaching can help you step up in life, head over to CoachChadHenderson.com. Until next time, take care of yourself and those around you, and remember, the door is always open here in the men's room.